Why did Jesus have to die on the cross? He's God's son. He's God's only son, if he is God.
I was using it as motivation. And all things are possible for me because I am a believer.
He spent years in rooms most of us will never see. Navy SEAL, then a contractor for the CIA. A man whose entire job was to sit across from the worst of what people do to each other and not blink. And this July, in the middle of an interview about something else entirely, he says this out loud.
You know, I went to Mass on Sunday and like full-blown going back into the Catholic Church now. And
I'm full-blown going back into the Catholic Church now. No announcement, no press release, no worship music swelling underneath it. Just a hardened man in a chair telling the truth about where he'd been on Sunday. And he is not alone.
But yet they're convinced that the entire universe was smaller than the head of a pin. I'm sticking with Jesus.
For about 20 years now, we've been told that the culture has one direction, and it's away. That the further you get from church, the freer you are. And the podcast studio was supposed to be the final proof of it, the last unsupervised room in America. No script, no producer in your ear, no priest. 3 hours, 2 microphones, and nothing off limits. But here's what most people don't realize. That room is exactly what's causing this. Because you can hold a mask for a 10-minute interview. You can hold it for 30. Nobody holds it for 3 hours.
It's been a struggle in certain ways with certain behaviors that I'm just not proud of, right?
Somewhere in hour 2, when the jokes have run out and the guest has stopped performing, people start telling the truth. And lately, over and over, the truth coming out of that chair has a name in it. Now, I want to be careful with you right at the top, because I would rather you trust me than be impressed by me. Not one of these 6 men walked into a studio an unbeliever and walked out saved. There is no lightning bolt on tape. That's not what this is, and I'm not going to sell it to you that way. What's on tape is something else. And honestly, I think it's rarer. It's the moment the performance stops. It's a man forgetting the camera is on. 6 of them. And number 1 is the one I can't stop thinking about. A comedian famous for absurd, ridiculous stories sits down on his own show, starts praying out loud, and comes apart in a way I've never heard anybody do in public. I'll get to him. Let's start at 6, with a man who did not believe. He hosts one of the biggest interview shows in Britain, a business and life show that pulls millions of views an episode. And he sat down across from a Christian apologist named Wes Huff, and he did not go easy. He pressed him on hell. He pressed him on who gets saved and who doesn't. Every hard question you've ever wanted to ask a Christian and been too polite to, he asked on camera.
I mean, it's the transitions going from the chimpanzee type thing, right? Because we're obviously not arguing that we were a chimpanzee as a chimpanzee exists today.
And I need to be straight with you. He didn't fall to his knees. He didn't announce anything. As far as I can tell, he walked out of that room the same man who walked in. So why is he number 6? Because of what happened to the answers. They held. Under pressure, in front of millions of people who'd have loved to watch a Christian fumble it, the case held, and the clip went everywhere. Peter wrote it almost 2,000 years ago. 1 Peter 3, verse 15. Always be ready to give a reason for the hope that's in you, with gentleness and respect. Not to win, to be ready.
They include embarrassing or otherwise inconvenient details, like Jesus' upbringing in the disregarded town of Nazareth.
That's what a room full of skeptics did. They gave the answers a stage. Now watch what happens when the guy asking is the one who cracks. Number 5 is a stand-up comic who built a career on having no filter. He's Jewish, he says so constantly, and he is the last person you'd expect to defend Christianity to anybody. Same apologist, different show, 3 hours long. And for a long stretch of it, he fights. His objection is one I hear from people all the time, and I don't think Christians answer it well enough. He says, I understand the offer. Jesus takes the weight off. But to get the weight taken off, first I have to agree that I'm garbage. And what if I don't feel like garbage? So now I've got to talk myself into hating myself just so God can talk me back out of it. Sit with that for a second, because it's a real objection. That is a man saying, your good news starts with an insult. And the answer he gets isn't a dodge. Romans 3:23, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Every single one. And then, this is the part that never gets quoted with it, verse 24, and are justified freely by his grace. Freely. It was never God tearing you down so he could build you back up. It's a doctor telling you what's actually wrong because he already has the cure in his hand. And then, after 3 hours of arguing, watch which side he lands on. His Hindu co-host takes a shot at Christianity, and the comedian, the Jewish one, the one who spent the whole episode pushing back, turns around and defends it. Yo, I love confident Christians. Arrange to editor. The rest of that line is comedic and profane. Recommend cutting the clip there or bleeping. Narrator does not repeat it. He's joking. He's always joking. But you don't defend something you think is stupid. And months later, he sat down for another long one with a Christian guest and got genuinely, visibly speechless. That's not a bit. That's a man circling something. Now, number 4 comes with a caveat, and I'm going to give it to you before I give you the clip. He is not a podcaster. He's a 2-division world champion fighter who sat in the guest chair. So, if you're keeping score, he's a famous man on a podcast, not a man with one. And in July, on that show, he said this.
And all things are possible for me because I am a believer. I have the keys of the kingdom.
It takes a deeper meaning when you hit rock bottom, and there's nothing else there but God. Rock bottom. And here's where I have to be honest with you instead of easy, because this channel doesn't do the version where we skip the hard part. The bottom he's describing isn't only career trouble. In November of 2024, an Irish civil jury found against him in a sexual assault case brought by a woman named Nikita Hand. He appealed. In July of 2025, he lost the appeal. He has continued to deny it. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that a man saying God's name settles that. It doesn't. It doesn't undo anything that was done to her, and her case was heard and decided in a courtroom, and that stands.
You know, you got to dig deep and you got to prove to yourself you are what you say you are. And so that was what it was for me. I was using it as motivation.
So what do we do with it? We do what Jesus told us to do. Matthew 3, verse 8. Bear fruit in keeping with repentance. Not say the words in keeping with repentance. Fruit, something that grows, something you can see later from a distance over years. That's the test, and it's a slow one, and it applies to him exactly the way it applies to me. I don't know his heart. That's God's territory, not mine. What I know is the tape, and the tape says a man at the bottom named God out loud. What it becomes is not mine to declare, in either direction. Quick pause, halfway. I want to know which of these 3 has surprised you the most so far. Drop the number in the comments, just the number. I read them. And if these are the stories you want more of, hit like and subscribe. It genuinely decides whether this reaches the person who needs it today. Okay, number 3 is the biggest one on the list. And I mean that literally. Number 3 is the biggest one on the list. And I mean that literally. If you had to pick one voice that shaped how millions of men think about God, it wouldn't be a pastor, it'd be him. The most listened to podcast in the world. 11 million people an episode. And this is a man who went to Catholic school, hated it, came out the other side calling himself pretty much an atheist, and stayed there for most of his adult life. Then, in May of 2025, a guest brings up the resurrection, and he says something that got clipped and posted about 100,000 times. He points out the strangeness of it, that people find the resurrection ridiculous and then turn around and tell you with total confidence that the entire universe was once smaller than the head of a pin. Same people, same certainty.
Yes. And it's funny because people would be incredulous about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, but yet they're convinced that the entire universe was smaller than the head of a pin. I'm sticking with Jesus on that one. Like, Jesus makes more sense.
And then he lands it. I'm sticking with Jesus. Paul saw this coming. 1 Corinthians 1:18. The message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. 2,000 years later, the most secular microphone on the planet looks at both stories and says the cross is the one that holds up. And it didn't stop there. That October, on another episode, he goes deeper than he ever has, talking about Jesus as the one figure everybody agrees existed, who somehow arrived with the best possible plan for how human beings should treat each other, was the best example of it himself.
That somehow or another had the best plan for how human beings should interact with each other and behave.
And then died without lifting a hand to stop it. He calls it fascinating.
Christianity in particular is the most fascinating to me because there's this one person that everybody agrees existed.
And in the same conversation, when a guest says he loves going to church, he says he does too, that it's full of people trying to be better.
I haven't got there, but I have started going to church every now and again.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you enjoy it?
I love it.
Yeah.
I do.
I do too. It's a bunch of people that are going to try to make their lives better.
He started attending in the summer of 2025. He described it in the most understated way possible as very nice. Now, same rule as always. He hasn't claimed conversion, and I'm not going to claim it for him. But a former atheist with the largest audience in the world saying on tape that he's sticking with Jesus and that he goes to church now? That is the ground moving. Back to the man from the top. He's a former Navy SEAL and a former CIA contractor who now hosts one of the biggest military and intelligence shows anywhere. His whole catalog is dark. Combat, trafficking, interrogation, the machinery of evil. He has spent years staring directly at it, professionally, and by his own account, it came home with him. And on somebody else's show in July, in the middle of a political interview, it comes out.
You know, I went to Mass on Sunday, and I'm like full-blown going back into the Catholic Church now, and I'm going through a crazy spiritual transformation right now.
And then he adds the line, I keep turning over. He says, God needs to be highlighted and that you cannot put your faith in man at all. That is a man who has met a lot of impressive men, operators, officials, the kind of people the rest of us assume are in charge. And his conclusion, after all of it, is that not one of them will hold your weight. Luke 15, the son who took everything and left, and came home rehearsing his apology, and his father saw him a long way off and ran. Nobody makes you earn the walk back. That's the whole scandal of it. He was already running before you finished the sentence. Which brings us to number one. This is the one. You know this man for being ridiculous. Absurdist stories, impossible tangents, a voice that turns everything into a bit. 670 episodes of making people laugh. He's also been open for years about being in recovery. April 20th of this year. His own show. Nobody made him say any of this.
You know, I've been struggling, man. The past couple years, I've had, it's been a struggle in certain ways with certain behaviors that I'm just not proud of, right?
He talks about a couple of years of behaviors he isn't proud of. Behaviors he says he didn't even want to be doing anymore. And then, instead of turning it into a joke, which is his entire skill set, the thing he could do in his sleep, he tells you what he started praying.
I started praying God, please help me with this. This is a broken part of me that I bring to you. I need help with it.
And then he says the thing that I have never heard anybody say on a microphone in my life.
And God, even as I pray to you right now, there's a part of me that knows I'm probably lying to you.
He tells God that even while he's praying, part of him knows he's probably lying. That part of him already knows he's going to do it again. and he asks God to come into that part, the lying part, the part that isn't sincere yet. I want you to sit with that, because most of us would never pray it out loud. We'd clean it up first. We'd wait until we meant it. Mark 9:24. A father brings his son to Jesus and says, "I believe. Help my unbelief." That's the same prayer. That is a man handing God the half of him that doesn't believe, because it's the only half he's actually got. And Jesus didn't correct him. He healed the boy. Then it goes further. He starts asking himself whether he even wants to be healed. He says, sometimes the honest answer is no. That he wants something different, but he doesn't know if he's scared of it. He didn't get that question out of nowhere.
And sometimes a lot of the answer is no, I don't. I want something different, but I don't want to. I don't know if I'm scared of it. I don't know what I am. I don't know if I don't want to do what it takes to get. I can't even tell what it is.
It's John 5. A man has been lying beside a pool for 38 years, waiting for water that never moves for him. And Jesus walks up and asks him what sounds like the cruelest possible question. Do you want to be made well? 38 years. Of course he does. Except, does he? Because that pool was his whole life. It was his spot, his story, the thing everybody knew him for. Healing would cost him all of it. Jesus asks it because it is a real question. Some of us have been beside that water so long, we've built a life out of waiting. And then, at the end, a comedian on a podcast says this.
Some of this stuff's a little bit hard for me to say. I don't even know why. But I think I want a new story.
I'm tired of living that story, man. I think I want a new story. He says it's crazy for him to even say it, and then he says it anyway, that what he's asking God for is a new story, the next part of himself. I don't know his heart. I want to say that plainly, the way I always do. He hasn't announced anything, and it's not my place to announce it for him. What I'll tell you is that he'd already been quietly going to Bible study with a friend of his, a country singer, months before any of this. So this wasn't a mood. Something had been happening for a while. Look at what we just watched. A skeptic who asked the hardest questions on live television and got real answers. A comedian who argued for 3 hours and then defended the faith anyway. A fighter at the bottom with everything about him unresolved. The biggest microphone on earth saying he's sticking with Jesus. A Navy SEAL going back to Mass. And a man who makes his living being funny, praying out loud that God would come into the part of him that's still lying. Not one of them is a finished story. Every one of them is a crack. And I think that's the thing worth noticing. We keep waiting for the dramatic version, the stage, the announcement, the before and after. But Psalm 51 says what God actually accepts is a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart he will not despise. Not a fixed one, a broken one. Every one of these men said something true out loud before he had it sorted out. That's the entire move. That's all it ever was. So here's my question for you, and then I'll let you go. What's the thing you'd only admit at hour 3? The part you'd clean up before you prayed about it. Bring that one. Bring it exactly as broken as it is. He is not waiting for you to mean it perfectly. He's waiting for you to say it honestly. If this hit you, share it with one person who needs to hear it today. And I'll see you in the next one.